The 1970s were brutal for muscle cars. Emissions regulations, insurance costs, and fuel crises killed off most of America's horsepower heroes. But some manufacturers took one last swing at glory before the lights went out. These weren't just casualties of changing times, they were one-year wonders that packed serious punch before vanishing forever. These legendary muscle cars that showed up, made their mark, and disappeared after just 12 months. Some you may have heard of, others have been forgotten by everyone, except the most hardcore collectors who know their true value. Number 10, the Buick that scared Detroit. Picture this, your grandmother's Buick dealer trying to sell you a car that could smoke a Corvette. That's exactly what happened with the 1970 Buick GSX Stage 1. Buick built their reputation on quiet comfort and smooth rides, not screaming tires and quarter-mile times. But someone in Flint had different ideas. The GSX Stage 1 packed a 455 cubic inch monster that Buick claimed made 360 horsepower. They lied. The real number was closer to 400, maybe more. Buick underrated their engines to keep insurance companies happy and GM executives from having heart attacks. This thing was faster than most Corvettes and Camaros, which created a serious problem inside General Motors. Here's the issue. Nobody wanted to buy a muscle car from Buick. The brand screamed retirement community, not burning rubber. Dealers couldn't move them. Production stopped after just 678 GSX models rolled off the line. Today, that failure makes them worth serious money. Speaking of international muscle car mysteries, Australia had their own forbidden fruit story. Number 9. Australia's forbidden fruit. While Detroit was choking on emissions regulations, Ford Australia was building the 1971 Falcon XY GTHO Phase 3. Ford's Australian division had more freedom than their American counterparts, and they used every bit of it. The Phase 3 became Australia's ultimate muscle car answer to American iron. The car was so fast it got banned from racing. That's not marketing speak. The Phase 3 literally dominated Australian motorsports so completely that officials changed the rules to stop it. Production ended mid-year because there was no point building a race car that couldn't race. Australian engineers took Ford's Cleveland 351 V8 and pushed it beyond anything Detroit ever attempted. They modified the heads, upgraded the cam, and tuned the carburetors to extract maximum power. The result was a street-legal race car that embarrassed everything else on Australian roads. Political pressure from safety groups and media coverage of high-speed crashes forced Ford Australia to pull the plug. Only 300 Phase 3 models were built, making them worth over $1 million today. Back in America, AMC was making their own desperate play for muscle car glory. Number 8. AMC's red, white, and blue gamble. AMC was the scrappy underdog trying to punch above its weight class. The 1970 Rebel machine was their shot at muscle car glory, competing against Ford, GM, and Chrysler with a fraction of their budget. AMC knew they couldn't outspend the big three, so they got creative. Limited resources forced AMC engineers to think differently. They tuned the 390 V8 engine harder than expected, extracted more power from existing components, and built a car that surprised everyone with its performance. The patriotic red, white, and blue paint scheme wasn't just marketing, it was AMC wrapping themselves in the flag and hoping buyers would notice. The functional hood scoop actually worked, feeding cool air to the 390 engine that punched well above its advertised horsepower rating. But AMC's dealer network couldn't sell performance cars effectively. Buyers didn't trust the brand for muscle car duty. AMC lost money on every machine they built. After producing just 2,326 units, they pulled the plug. Plymouth was about to try their own desperate muscle car revival. Number 7. Plymouth's triple barrel finale. Plymouth's 1971 GTX 440+6 represented Chrysler's final attempt at the multiple carburetor muscle car formula. 3 two-barrel carburetors sat on top of the 440 cubic inch V8, creating a complex induction system that was both engineering marvel and maintenance nightmare. The six-pack setup delivered impressive power when everything worked perfectly. All 3 carburetors had to be synchronized precisely, with the center carburetor handling idle and light throttle, while the outer 2 kicked in under acceleration. When tuned correctly, the system produced incredible throttle response and serious horsepower. But keeping 3 carburetors working together was a constant battle. Mechanics struggled with the complex linkage system and multiple adjustment points. Emissions regulations made the setup even more problematic, as controlling exhaust output from 3 separate fuel delivery systems proved nearly impossible. Only 135 GDX 440 plus 6 models were built before Chrysler abandoned the formula. The complex induction system represented the end of an era when horsepower mattered more than emissions compliance. Down in Australia, similar regulatory pressure was killing another unique muscle car. Number 6. Holden's American Heart. The 1973 Holden Monaro GTS 350 was Australia's desperate attempt to keep American V8 muscle alive during the worst possible timing. Holden imported Chevrolet 350 small block engines from Detroit just as fuel prices exploded and performance cars became socially unacceptable. The timing couldn't have been worse. Here was Holden shipping American V8s across the Pacific Ocean while gas stations had lines around the block. The GTS 350 combined Australian engineering with American power, creating a car perfectly suited for local driving conditions. The Monaro's independent rear suspension and balanced chassis made it handle better than most American muscle cars on Australia's winding roads. The 1973 oil crisis killed performance car demand overnight. Suddenly, nobody wanted a thirsty V8 when fuel cost 3 times more than the previous year. Australian attitudes toward performance cars shifted dramatically as environmental concerns and fuel economy became priorities. The GTS 350 died after just 1 year, making it the rarest Monaro variant ever produced. Back in America, Dodge was trying their own risky muscle car experiment. Number 5. Dodge's devilish mistake. Dodge thought they had a winning formula with the 1971 Demon 340. Chrysler wanted an affordable muscle car that younger buyers could actually purchase without breaking the bank. The Demon packed serious performance into a compact package that didn't cost Chevelle SS money. Nobody expected the religious backlash. Church groups across America protested the Demon name and devil-themed marketing campaign. Dodge had pitched fork logos, demonic imagery, and advertising that played up the hellish theme. Religious organizations weren't having it. The 340 small block engine was the real star. This motor delivered incredible power-to-weight ratio that embarrassed many big block competitors. The Demon 340 could outrun cars with engines 100 cubic inches larger thanks to its lighter curb weight and efficient small block design. Religious protests combined with insurance industry pressure created a perfect storm. Dodge renamed the car Dart Sport for 1972, abandoning the controversial Demon branding entirely. That 1-year naming window makes original Demons incredibly valuable to collectors today. Chevrolet was trying their own risky experiment with luxury muscle cars. Number 4. Chevrolet's luxury muscle experiment. The 1970 Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS 454 was GM's attempt to build a gentleman's muscle car. Chevrolet wanted to combine luxury appointments with serious performance, creating something between a Chevelle SS and an Impala. The idea sounded good on paper. Buyers got confused fast. The Monte Carlo's plush interior and refined styling attracted luxury car shoppers who didn't want big block power. Performance buyers looked at the longer wheelbase and softer suspension tuning and walked away. The car fell between 2 different markets. The LS5 454 engine produced 360 horsepower, identical to the Chevelle SS version. But the Monte Carlo's stretched wheelbase and luxury-oriented suspension setup hurt handling compared to the shorter, stiffer Chevelle. Weight distribution suffered with the longer hood and different proportions. Chevrolet's marketing department couldn't figure out how to sell this thing. After 1 year, they dropped the SS 454 option entirely. Another Australian muscle car was facing completely different challenges with racing regulations. Number 3. Australia's Racing Homologation Special. The 1972 Chrysler V8 Charger E49 was Australia's most extreme factory muscle car, built purely to meet racing homologation requirements. Chrysler Australia needed to produce a minimum number of street cars to qualify for motorsports competition. Here's where things got crazy. Chrysler pushed their 265 Hemi 6-cylinder engine to limits that embarrassed V8 owners. The E49 used triple Weber carburetors feeding the inline-6 engine, a setup more complex than most Italian exotics. Australian engineers extracted incredible power from 6 cylinders that many thought impossible. The triple Weber setup required constant tuning and adjustment. Each carburetor had to work perfectly with the other 2, creating a symphony of fuel delivery that produced serious horsepower. The result was a 6-cylinder engine that could run with the best V8s Australia had to offer. Racing regulations changed mid-season, making the E49 obsolete before it could prove itself on track. Only 149 E49s were built, making it the rarest and most valuable Australian muscle car ever produced. One final Australian entry took a completely different approach to performance. Number 2. The homologation hero. The 1977 Holden Toronto was Australia's final shot at muscle car greatness, engineered specifically to dominate the Bathurst 1000. Holden needed to build street versions to meet racing homologation requirements, creating the ultimate sleeper muscle car. Racing regulations demanded minimum production numbers, but Holden built exactly what they needed and nothing more. The A9X received extensive modifications that transformed the humble Toronto into a track weapon. Flared fenders accommodated wider racing tires, while the suspension was completely redesigned for circuit duty. The 308 V8 engine package delivered serious power through careful tuning and performance modifications. Everything about the A9X was built for speed, from the aerodynamic body kit to the stripped interior that saved weight. Changing racing regulations killed the Australian Touring Car Championship's golden era almost immediately. Only 33 A9X road cars were ever built, making them the ultimate Australian muscle car collectible. Back in America, Oldsmobile was making one final attempt at attracting younger buyers. Number 1. Oldsmobile's youth movement failure. The 1970 Oldsmobile Rally 350 was GM's desperate attempt to make Oldsmobile cool for younger buyers. This was like trying to convince college students that their grandfather's cardigan was suddenly fashionable. Oldsmobile had spent decades building a reputation for quiet luxury and conservative styling. Bold racing stripes and colorful graphics couldn't overcome decades of stodgy brand image. The Rally 350 looked like someone had attacked a regular Cutlass with a box of racing decals. The 350 engine produced modest power that got embarrassed by nearly every other muscle car on the market. While competitors were packing 440s and 450s, Oldsmobile offered a small block that barely kept up. Oldsmobile dealers were uncomfortable selling to younger customers and didn't understand the performance market. The car fell between demographics, too flashy for traditional Oldsmobile buyers and too weak for serious muscle car enthusiasts. After 1 year, the Rally 350 disappeared, proving that brand image matters more than marketing gimmicks. These 10 one-year wonders represent the exact moment when the muscle car era died. Each failure taught Detroit what wouldn't work in the new reality of emissions regulations, insurance costs, and changing buyer preferences. The Buick GSX proved luxury brands couldn't sell performance. The AMC machine showed small companies couldn't compete on horsepower alone. Australia's forbidden fruits demonstrated that even isolated markets couldn't escape regulatory pressure. Which of these rare muscle cars would you choose if money were no object? Let me know in the comments below. Sometimes the cars that failed tell us more about automotive history than the ones that succeeded.